you a defense contractor, CEO, or executive still concerned about CMMC or your cybersecurity requirements? If that's you, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to today's session where we're going to be diving into exactly what we feel CEOs and executives of defense contractors should be doing as their next step, whether you're just getting started or already have dove into this process and feel like you're at a point of stuckness or inaction on what to do next. That's where we feel a majority of our community is. So we want to put on this session to break down the exact 3 steps that you need to take next, or wherever you fall in the equation, to be able to get on the right track from a CMMC standpoint and make sure it's scalable for your business and for your operations. My name is Greg Tomczyk, CEO here at Valor Cybersecurity. I love putting on these sessions because it takes all of the learnings and knowledge that we're having in the market right now and really delivers it directly to you so you can take focused action. If you have not already downloaded our CMMC ebook and compliance formula package, if you download this, you'll get our CMMC compliance formula ebook. We just released a scoping exercise, and you'll also get a free assessment once you're able to look into the materials we provided. If you want to get some expert insight from our team, we have 2 more spots left for that in July, and then 1 more left in August. So we're getting pretty booked up as the year goes on. But if you go ahead and download this free of charge, we'll give you those, and you can decide from there if you want to take our free assessment and get some expert guidance going forward. Really excited about this session because when I initially started in the defense contracting space, I was working for a CEO directly and the COO of the company. And their big question to me is, how do we get compliant with DFARS 7012 in the most cost and time effective way now and into the future? And I was a young cybersecurity analyst at this time. It was a big question. I had to do a lot of research, but ultimately I've always been interfacing with the CEOs, the executives, the people who are signing the checks, to help them both understand how they're going to get compliant to start and then how they're going to manage it going forward. And obviously cybersecurity layers on another few layers of complexity in understanding if they're not cybersecurity or technology driven executives. That's a big task that we've really been able to specialize in here at Valor. And today we're going to talk about, if you're an executive or a CEO of a defense contractor, and maybe you're just getting started out, we're going to kind of start there, and then you can place yourself in whichever step in the roadmap you feel is next, ideally for your business. But we want to break this down into the 3 steps that we see as most helpful for CEOs and executives in the defense contracting space specifically. And the first step that we recommend that you do, if you have not done this already, is scoping. Basically, go through your business process. So request for information, or you find a contract on SAM, or a partner comes to you and wants you to bid on a piece of the work for a contract. You have to really scope the information that's relayed throughout that whole ecosystem of putting in the bid, delivering that work or product, and then closing out that project on contract closeout, and where that information flows through and eventually gets stored. So that's really the scoping exercise. We have a video I'll put in the comments below on everything you need to do to scope. So that's the first step. If you don't know what type of information you have and you're still confused on that, focus your time, maybe an hour, 2 hours over the next week or 2 to go through that scoping exercise. And we actually offer that as a standalone 1-month service. So you don't have to technically sign on to our 6-month. You can kind of help, you can get the expert help from us just to scope it out. And that's really what we've been able to have the most breakthroughs in. And if you want to use us after, we'd love to partner up with you. But we do know companies out there have their own internal resources, but they may not be experts at CUI, or we're going to offer that to you as a part of tuning in to this session. We do have 2 spots left in July and then 1 in August to be able to do that scoping exercise. And you really want to start from square one of the business process all the way through to delivery and contract closeout to be able to really scope out where you have to place and require these types of security measures now and into the future. You want to make sure you have documentation. A lot of companies will go to a software to have these template type documents, but you have to have policies and procedures that govern your organization. Tell the people that are within your organization and that work with your organization as external service providers, what are the policies and procedures that you follow in order to make sure your business is protected, and then the information of your customers, the DoD in this case, that you're protecting on their behalf. And that's critically important, is to document it, to be able to prove it. We see more and more questionnaires that say, send us your information security policy, or give us a snippet of your access control policy, send us your system security plan. And a lot of companies still don't have these things documented. You may have a system security plan or SSP and a POAM, but what supports those implementation details or current state responses from a policy, what documentation is going to do. You should have, first and foremost, an information security policy. That's called a written information security policy, or WISP. A lot of acronyms, but I want to make sure you know when you hear those terms what that means. It has a information security resource plan. How do you resource both people, time, and dollars in a way that supports these security requirements? That's going to be your resource plan. So you have your written information security policy, your resource plan, an incident response plan. How do you respond? Your company has an incident. How do you go about the process of minimizing risk both to you and your customers? That's going to be in an incident response plan. And then you can get even as far as business continuity and disaster recovery plans. We traditionally put those as an extension of the incident response plan to keep everything really centralized from that standpoint. And then, some type of employee handbook. So how do you govern people onboarding and offboarding throughout the process? You can put that in your written information security policy, but some companies like to keep that separate. And then one of the critical documents you want IT to, or the IT person in your company to look for, is a configuration type document. How do you manage the configurations of your systems, whether that's Microsoft 365 or otherwise? This is a more technical document. We wouldn't recommend the CEO or an executive diving into, but whoever you employ or deploy to do the configurations of your network and make sure that the right buttons are clicked on, which is traditionally a managed IT service provider or some type of internal IT resource. Make sure they have some type of configuration control plan. What configurations do they have in place to start? How do they make sure those are maintained and kept in a good state? Because when things get updated, sometimes configurations get changed. So making sure you have some type of change management, configuration management type plan. And then ultimately, when it comes to configurations, can you pull evidence off to show an auditor? That's all a part of your documentation, but that's ultimately going to be the 4 documents that you need to support your system security plan, which is what you're getting audited against. And those 4 are a written information security policy, a information security resource plan, an incident response plan, how are you going to respond to incidents, and then a configuration control or configuration management document. You can call it whichever one you want, but basically, how do you have things configured up to the objectives and these requirements, and then how do you maintain it going forward, which is more of a technical document to be able to eventually show all the evidence. An auditor shows up, you've scheduled your CMMC audit for level 1, level 2, or level 3 going forward. How can you show that you have all these things in place? And that's going to be through those 4 pieces of documentation along with your system security plan. So that's going to be extremely important from that standpoint. And then last but not least, that next step, if you've done the scoping, you've done the documentation, is going to be scoring. So SPRS, Supplier Performance Risk System Scoring, is really how companies are audited today. We help a lot of companies submit their SPRS score. First, you have to calculate it. So if you feel like you've scoped great, you have all the documentation in place, go ahead and start to score your organization against the SPRS scoring system. We have a number of things in our CMMC compliance formula ebook that helps you do that scoring. But ultimately, you have to go about using revision to the scoring guide to actually go and give your organization a score and submit that to PIE, or the procurement integration platform called PIE. And if you're in defense contracting, you're familiar with that platform. You have to submit that as a part of contracts nowadays. There's a clause that says you have to submit and maintain a SPRS score. If you haven't done that already, this is a great time to get that score in from a proactive standpoint, because we hear more and more from contracting officers as we're in our ecosystem networking and things of that nature, that they look at the SPRS score as a part vetting for the winner of that contract. And it's critical you have that in there, that it's accurate, that you can prove it, and that you aren't overscoring yourself or underscoring. So we want to make sure that score is accurate. And if you've gotten a higher score over the past couple months, you can submit another score to update that. So it's not something you just do once and then you improve and don't update that system. It should be most up to date, either by the month or by the quarter. Traditionally, as we're going through our 6-month readiness process, after month 2, we're updating it every month until we're able to get close to that 110 score, depending on where the organization is from being able to spend resources. So if you're a CEO, a defense contractor, executive, make sure you scope. have the right documentation in place that we walk through, and then make sure you're scoring. That is going to be everything you need to do as those critical 3 next steps before actually going and scheduling that CMMC certification or audit. We want to make sure you're set up for success. If you are confused at any of these steps, as I mentioned, we have a couple spots left for our scoping exercise, which is the first step in how we get companies ready for CMMC and how we've been able to do it in record time under the budget that was anticipated. And that's ultimately our goal, to prove ourselves to be able to do that time and time again, because common misconceptions is in CMMC is this is not a business benefit, too expensive, takes too much time. So we try each and every day to simplify it in a way to cut through those misconceptions and get people on the right track. Get one of those scoping spots, go to our website. That's Valor, VALOR-cybersecurity.com. You can schedule a meeting with us to be able to talk through what that scoping exercise would look like. And also, if you download our free CMMC compliance formula ebook, we would love to give you that information and give you the opportunity to take our free pre-assessment, which give you some action-based recommendations based off of those answers. We're here to support you. My name is Greg Tomczyk. Until next time, stay safe and stay secure.